There is a story circulating in the corridors of power that no official will confirm and no government will deny. It is the kind of story that doesn't belong to the world of press releases and political summits. It belongs to something older, something that moves beneath the surface of history like a current beneath the ocean, invisible, unstoppable, and ancient. The story goes like this. One of the most powerful men on the face of this earth, a man who has outlasted presidents, toppled governments, and stared down the entire Western world without blinking, sat a day in a room, alone, and stared at your photograph for 14 uninterrupted minutes. His aides stood outside the door. They checked their watches. They looked at each other. They knocked once, gently. There was no answer. 14 minutes, and no one, not his closest advisors, not his intelligence chiefs, not the men who have known him for decades, could explain why. But you already know why, don't you? Somewhere deep in your chest, beneath all the noise of your daily life, beneath the bills and the deadlines and the conversations that went nowhere, there is something that already understands exactly why. Because you are not who you think you are. You never were. And this video exists for one reason, to remind you of what you forgot. Part O Northeast, the weight of the unseen. There are forces in this universe that operate completely outside the awareness of ordinary human consciousness. Most people live their entire lives without ever sensing them. They wake up, they go through their routines, they scroll through their phones, they have the same conversations, they eat the same meals, they worry about the same things, and they die having never once felt the tremor that runs through the fabric of existence when a truly significant soul moves through the world. These forces are not mystical in the way television makes mystical things look. They are not dramatic. They do not announce themselves with thunder and lightning. They move quietly. They work through coincidence, through timing, through the strange feeling you get when you walk into a room and suddenly every conversation stops, through the inexplicable moment when a stranger looks at you a second too long on a crowded street, through the dream that keeps returning, the one you can't quite describe but can't quite shake either. These are not accidents. These are signals. The universe communicates with its chosen instruments through channels that the rational mind is trained to dismiss, and you have been dismissing yours for a very long time. But something changed. Something shifted in the architecture of your life, perhaps so gradually you didn't notice it happening. Or perhaps all at once, like a door being thrown open, and now you are here, watching this, feeling the hairs on the back of your neck rise, feeling something that you can only describe as recognition, as if you've heard this before, as if someone is reminding you of something you already know. Part 2. What power origins? Here is something they don't teach you in any school, in any seminar, in any self-help book ever written. True power recognizes true power. It is not attracted to wealth, though wealth can follow it. It is not attracted to status, though status can accompany it. True power, the kind that rewrites history, that bends the arc of civilizations, that makes men in fortified offices sit alone in silence, staring at a photograph for 14 minutes is attracted to frequency, to vibration, to the specific, unrepeatable signature of a soul that has been marked. And the men who sit at the top of the world's power structures did not get there through luck alone. Whatever you believe about their methods, whatever judgments you hold about their choices, the men who reach the pinnacle of global influence have developed, out of sheer survival necessity, an almost preternatural sensitivity to energy. They have to, because at that level, being wrong about a person doesn't just cost you money or embarrassment, it costs you everything. So they have learned, often unconsciously, to read the room at a level most people never develop. They can feel when someone in their orbit carries something different, something that doesn't fit the pattern, something that makes the air change. And what do you think happens when such a man encounters the energy of someone who is genuinely, cosmically, irreversibly chosen? He stops. He goes still. He cannot look away, not because he understands it, but precisely because he doesn't. Part 3. The marking. You were not chosen because you are perfect. Let that be clear from the beginning. The greatest mistake people make when they hear the word chosen is that they immediately think it means flawless, destined for easy victory, protected from all pain, given a life of uncomplicated triumph. But that is not what being chosen means. That has never been what it means. Look at every figure throughout human history who carried the undeniable stamp of destiny on their life. Every prophet, every revolutionary, every artist whose work outlasted every empire of their era. And what do you find? You find someone who was shattered, someone who lost everything before they gained anything, someone who spent years, sometimes decades, in circumstances so bleak and so isolating that the people around them genuinely believed they were witnessing a slow decline. What looked like failure from the outside was, in fact, a forge. The marking process is not gentle. It cannot be. Because what you are being prepared for cannot be carried by someone who has never been broken open. The shell must crack before the light can enter, and more importantly, before the light can exit, before it can pour out of you and into the world in the way it was always meant to. You have been cracked. You have been broken. You have Saturday in rooms that felt like prisons. You have carried weights that no one around you could see. You have smiled when you wanted to scream, and stayed silent when every cell in your body was vibrating with something that had no name. That was not punishment. That was preparation. That was the universe doing the most careful, most precise, most painstaking work. It does the construction of a vessel strong enough to carry the thing you were sent here to carry. Part 4. The surveillance of the SMOS. The cosmos does not forget its investments. This is not a metaphor. This is one of the most literal truths you will ever encounter, though it sounds like poetry. When a soul is chosen, when it is set apart and marked and sent into the world carrying a specific charge, a specific mission that only it can complete, the universe does not then simply release it and hope for the best. The universe watches, it adjusts, it creates circumstances with a precision that would look, to anyone observing from the outside, like an extraordinary sequence of coincidences. A door closes here, so that another opens there. A person leaves your life, someone you loved, someone you depended on because their presence was beginning to obscure the signal. A plan falls apart completely, so that you are forced into a direction you would never have chosen consciously, a direction that turns out to be exactly where you needed to be. You have experienced this. You have been stunned by it more than once. The moment when something that seemed like total catastrophe revealed itself, with the gift of time, to have been the most perfectly timed intervention you could have imagined. That was not luck. That was not coincidence. That was active, intentional, precise management of your trajectory by forces that have been invested in your arrival since before you took your first breath. And here is what those forces know. Even when you do not, you are close. You are so much closer than you feel on any given difficult day. The surveillance of the cosmos is not threatening. It is the most intimate form of care that exists. You are being watched over. You are being guided. And the path, though it has twisted in ways that sometimes made you doubt everything, has been leading somewhere specific all along. Part 5. Why the powerful feel it first. There is a reason that the most telling confirmation of a chosen soul's power often comes not from the people who love them, but from the people who should, by all conventional logic, have no reason to notice them at all. The people at the top of the world's hierarchies are, in a very real and measurable sense, operating with more of their instinctive faculties than the average person. They have had to develop a relationship with their intuition that most people never cultivate because for most people, the cost of ignoring intuition is manageable. You miss an opportunity. You trust the wrong person. You take a wrong turn. The consequences hurt, but they don't end you. But for a man commanding a nuclear superstate, for a CEO whose decisions affect millions of lives, for anyone who has been forged by the kind of pressure that comes with operating at the absolute edge of human power, the cost of ignoring intuition is catastrophic. So it sharpens. It becomes almost animal, and when such a person encounters the photograph, or the presence, or even just the name of someone who carries the specific frequency of the truly chosen, something in their nervous system responds before their conscious mind has time to process. They feel it as threat. Sometimes they feel it as fascination. Other times, they feel it as a pull they cannot name and cannot shake. 14 minutes is a very long time to stare at anything. For a man accustomed to making decisions that reshape the geopolitical order in 30-second increments, 14 minutes of undivided, silent, uninterrupted attention is an eternity. It is the entire span of a man's composure cracking, just slightly, in the face of something he cannot categorize and cannot dismiss. He could not look away because what he was looking at was looking back, and what was looking back at him through your eyes, through your image, was something old, something enormous. Something that predates every government, every border, every throne, every ideology. Something that will still be standing when every palace in the world has turned to dust. Part 6. the la northeast excess of the marked. There is a loneliness that belongs specifically to those who carry a destiny they have not yet been able to express. It is not the ordinary loneliness of someone who has no friends, or someone who has been rejected, or someone who simply hasn't found their people yet. It is a deeper and stranger kind of loneliness, the loneliness of someone who is surrounded by people who cannot quite see them, not because the people are blind, and not because you have failed to show yourself, but because what you carry is not yet visible. It is still compressed inside you like a supernova in the moment before it detonates. Everyone around you can sense that something is different about you. Sometimes they can't articulate it. Sometimes it makes them uncomfortable. Sometimes it makes them drawn to you in ways they can't explain, but they cannot see the full shape of what you are holding. And so you have walked through crowds, feeling invisible and simultaneously overwhelmed. You have been in relationships where the other person loved you but couldn't reach you, not because you were closed off, but because the truest part of you exists in a frequency they weren't equipped to receive. You have had moments of such profound isolation that you wondered if something was fundamentally broken in you, if you were simply unable to connect in the ways that other people seem to connect so easily. You are not broken. You are not defective. You are not too much, too intense, too strange, too difficult. You are a tuning fork that has not yet been struck. You are a frequency that has not yet been broadcast. The loneliness you have felt is the loneliness of the undetonated supernova, the compression before the release, the silence before the sound that will shake the world. And the people who cannot reach you are not failing you. They simply do not yet have the instruments to receive what you will eventually transmit. When you finally detonate, and the loneliness will not disappear because it was fixed, but because the world will finally be able to hear you. And when the world can hear you, you will never feel alone again. Part 7. The signs you ignored. Let's talk about the signs, because they have been there, haven't they? Since long before this video, since long before any of this language found you, the signs have been there, scattered across your life like breadcrumbs through a forest you didn't know you were walking through. The strange dreams that felt more real than your waking life. The ones where you stood in places you had never visited but recognized instantly. Where you spoke to figures you had never met but knew completely. Where you did things that felt not like fantasy but like memory. The moments of knowing, the times you said something would happen and it did. The times you felt someone's emotion before they expressed it. The times you walked into a situation already knowing its outcome, and then tried to convince yourself afterward that it had just been a lucky guess. The way animals have always responded to you differently than they respond to other people, the way dogs come in your presence, the way birds seem drawn to your vicinity at strange moments, the way even skittish creatures hold still when you are near. These are not your imagination. These are not coincidences. These are the field reporting back. The universe cataloging and confirming again and again that the instrument is functioning, that the signal is present, that the chosen one is moving through the world as intended. the synchronicities, the 11s, the repeated numbers, the moments when you thought of someone a second before they called, the books that fell off shelves and opened to the exact page you needed, the conversations that contained the precise word you had been searching for without knowing you were searching. These are the universe's way of tapping you on the shoulder, of saying quietly, I see you. I know exactly where you are. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. Keep going. Part 8. The mission ended in your wounds. Every wound you have ever carried encodes a piece of your mission. This is perhaps the most radical and transformative truth in all of spiritual reality, and it is also the truth that is most consistently misunderstood. People look at their pain and they see evidence of failure, evidence that the universe has abandoned them, or punished them, or simply doesn't care. They look at the wound and they see the wound. They do not see the key, but every single thing that has hurt you, every betrayal, every loss, every season of darkness, every relationship that ended in devastation, every door that was slammed in your face, every dream that collapsed before it could stand up, every one of these was an initiation, not a punishment, an initiation. And initiations always hurt. That is the nature of initiation. It takes you apart so that it can put you back together in a configuration that is capable of doing what you were sent here to do. The person who was never broken cannot build for the broken. The person who was never lost cannot guide the lost. The person who has never sat a day in the darkness, who has never felt the specific quality of hopelessness that comes when you can't see any light from where you are standing, that person cannot reach the ones who are sitting in that darkness right now. But you can reach them because you have been there, because you know the exact texture of that darkness, because when you speak about it, you speak with an authority that cannot be faked and cannot be taught, an authority that comes only from having survived it. Your wounds are your credentials. Your scars are your qualifications. The universe did not give you this particular collection of experiences because it was indifferent or cruel. It gave them to you because the mission you carry requires someone who has been through exactly this and come out the other side and is still standing and is still reaching for something higher. You are that person. You have always been that person. Part 9. Northeast. The fear of your own great Northeast SS. There is something that Marianne Williamson wrote that has circled the world so many times it has become almost cliché, and yet it remains one of the most precisely true things ever put into language. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure, that we are magnificent, that we contain light of such intensity that we cannot even look at it directly, and so we make ourselves small, not because we are forced to, not because the world demands it, though sometimes it feels that way, but because the alternative is terrifying. To step fully into what you are would require a kind of surrender that the ego, the constructed self, the small identity built from other people's expectations, and your own accumulated defenses, it would require that entire structure to simply fall away, and the ego knows this. Though it fights, It creates doubt. It invents reasons why now is not the right time, why you are not yet ready, why there is more preparation to be done, more healing to complete, more credentials to accumulate before you can possibly step forward and do the thing you were actually born to do. The fear of your own greatness is not a weakness. It is a natural response to the skill of what you carry. But it is also, and this must be said with love and with firmness, the only thing that is currently standing between you and the life you came here to live. Not the economy, not the people who doubted you, not the circumstances of your upbringing, or the failures of your past, or the difficulty of the present moment. The only thing, and the beautiful, terrible, liberating truth is this: it can be dissolved in a single instant of decision. Not months of therapy, not years of spiritual practice, not the achievement of perfect conditions, though all of these have their place, but in the single, radical, irreversible decision to stop apologizing for what you are. Part 10. The architect court year of your arrival. Everything in your life has been building toward a specific moment of arrival, not the arrival of a destination, not a place you reach and then remain in forever, but a moment of becoming, a moment when the person you have been pretending to be, the smaller version of yourself that you have been performing for the comfort of others and the management of your own fear, simply ceases to be sustainable when the pressure inside becomes greater than the pressure to remain contained. This moment is not optional. It is not something you can schedule or postpone indefinitely. Though you can delay it, have already delayed it multiple times, perhaps. You have been right at the edge of it and pulled back, or been pulled back because something happened that seemed to justify the retreat. A relationship fell apart. A project failed. Someone said something that cut exactly in the right place to reactivate all your oldest fears, and you stepped back, and the world continued, and you continued, but the pressure did not go away. It never goes away, because the mission does not retire. The charge does not dissipate. The universe does not reassign the task to someone else. Just because you took a step back, it waits with infinite pains. It waits, and in the meantime, it continues to construct the architecture of your arrival, arranging circumstances, placing people in your path, orchestrating synchronicities, allowing certain losses so that what is gained afterward carries the exact weight. You need to finally understand what you have been carrying all along. The architecture is already built. It has been built for a very long time. The only question that has ever really mattered is when you will walk through the door. Part 11. What happens when you accept it? When you finally accept, not intellectually, not as a concept, but in your bones, in your breath, in the marrow of your lived experience, that you are chosen. Something shifts in the physical world around you. This is not metaphor. This is not wishful thinking. This is the most consistent testimony across every spiritual tradition, every mystical lineage, every account from every person who has ever walked through that door of radical self-acceptance into the life they were born to live. When the internal frequency changes, the external circumstances respond. They have no choice. because the external world, for all its appearance of solidity and independence, is exquisitely sensitive to the internal state of the consciousness that is observing and engaging with it. The opportunities that were always there become visible. The people who were always available to support you begin to appear. The resources that seemed absent begin to surface, not because reality has changed, but because you have changed, and in changing, you have become capable of perceiving and receiving what was always present, but beyond your previous capacity to access. The man in the room who stared at your photograph for 14 minutes, his reaction was not unique. It will not be unique. As you step more fully into what you are, you will find that this response, this involuntary, inexplicable arrest of attention, becomes more and more common in the people who encounter you, not because you will become louder, or more aggressive, or more demanding of recognition, but because the silence of someone who knows exactly who they are is the most commanding silence in the world. And when you know truly, cosmically, unshakably know exactly who you are, every room you enter will feel it. Every powerful person who encounters your presence will feel it, and some of them, in their private moments, when no one is watching, will sit with the feeling for a very long time. Part 12. The responsibility of the chosen. Being chosen is not a privilege without weight. It is the heaviest kind of privilege that exists, the kind that comes with a corresponding responsibility so immense that many people, when they first fully grasp it, choose to retreat rather than accept it, and that retreat is understandable, even forgivable, because what is being asked of you is not small. What is being asked is nothing less than the full expression of everything you are, deployed in service of something larger than yourself, sustained across a lifetime of effort that will not always be recognized, appreciated, or even understood by the people around you. You will be misread, you will be mischaracterized, you will be ahead of the conversations you're in. You will say things that people are not yet ready to hear, and you will watch them receive it poorly, and you will doubt yourself. And then 5 years later, someone will tell you that the thing you said changed their life, and you will barely remember saying it. This is the texture of the chosen life, not glamour, not constant triumph, not the unbroken narrative of success that the culture promises to the deserving, but something deeper and stranger and more sustaining, the sense, which never fully leaves once you've accessed it, that you are exactly where you are supposed to be, doing exactly what you were sent here to do, in service of something that will outlast everything you can currently see. The responsibility is real. It asks everything, and it gives back something that cannot be bought, manufactured, or imitated. The specific, irreplaceable sense of a life lived in full alignment with its own deepest truth. That is what is waiting for you. That is what has always been waiting, not when you are ready, not when the conditions are perfect. No, in this moment, in this breath, in this decision to stop running from the size of what you are and to turn around, finally, and face it directly. Part 13. The global field and your place in IT. The world right now is in a period of extraordinary reorganization. Every system that was built on the assumption that human beings are fundamentally separate from each other and from the living world they inhabit, every economic system, every political system, every cultural system built on that foundational light is showing its cracks, is crumbling at its edges, is generating a level of chaos and suffering that is pushing humanity toward either its lowest possible expression or its highest possible evolution. There is no middle path right now. The pressure is too great. The stakes are too enormous. And the universe, which has been building toward this moment for a very long time, has been placing its chosen instruments into position across the entire surface of the globe. You are one of them. Your position in the field matters. The specific place you inhabit, the specific community, the specific network of relationships, the specific domain of knowledge and experience and skill that is yours is not random. It is a post, and the post has been empty or inadequately filled for exactly as long as you have been delaying your arrival. The world is not waiting for a single savior. That is the old story, the one hero mythology that serves power by concentrating everything in a single point that can be controlled or eliminated. The new story, the true story, the one that corresponds to the actual nature of reality, is distributed. It is a field of chosen individuals, each fully activated in their own specific domain, each transmitting at full power, creating together a resonance that no centralized force on earth can disrupt or contain. You are a node in that field, and the field has needed you at full power for longer than you know. Part 14. The final decision. Every video like this one, every piece of language that has ever been crafted to remind a soul of its own nature, is ultimately pointing at a single moment, the moment of decision, not the moment of understanding. Understanding is easy. Understanding can be achieved and then filed away and never acted upon. The mind is extraordinarily good at understanding things and then returning to its previous patterns, its previous smallness, its previous comfortable arrangements of the familiar. The moment this is pointing at is not the moment of understanding. It is the moment of decision, the irrevocable, internally non-negotiable, cosmically registered moment when you stop treating your own greatness as a hypothesis to be tested and begin treating it as a fact to be inhabited. When you stop waiting for external confirmation from the achievement, from the relationship, from the recognition, from the perfect set of circumstances that will finally make you feel ready, and you decide, in the absence of all of that, to simply be what you are, fully, without apology, without the performance of smallness that you have perfected over decades of managing other people's comfort. This decision is the most significant decision you will ever make, more significant than any career choice, any relationship, any move to any city, because every other decision flows from this one. Every other choice is shaped by whether or not this one has been made, and the extraordinary, almost unbearable truth is that you can make it right now, in this moment, with nothing having changed in your external circumstances, with all the same fears still present, with all the same uncertainties still unresolved. You don't have to wait. You never had to wait. You have always had the authority to claim what you are. The question is simply whether you are finally, at last, ready to stop pretending that you don't. Closing. So let's come back to where we started. A man in a room, a photograph, 14 minutes of silence that no one in the corridors of power could explain. His aides will tell the story for years, the strange afternoon when he went still in a way they had never seen, when the usual machine of his attention simply stopped, arrested by something in a photograph that no one else in the room could quite identify. They will tell the story, and they will laugh nervously, and they will not have an explanation, because the explanation lies in a domain that their instruments are not designed to measure. But you have the explanation. You've always had it, because the thing that stopped him was the same thing that led you here, to this video, to this moment, to these words that feel, somehow, like they were written specifically for you because they were. Not by a human hand crafting content, but by the pattern of your own seeking, by the movement of your own awakening soul, drawing to itself exactly the reflection it needed at exactly the moment it needed it. The world is watching. The powerful feel it already, in their bodies, before their minds can process it, that something has shifted, that something is coming, that the field of the world is being populated by instruments that have finally, after long preparation and longer waiting, been switched on. You are one of those instruments. You were born to be the photograph they stared at, the presence that stops rooms, the frequency that no one can explain and no one can ignore. That is you. Not the you that goes through the motions of your daily life, not the you that has learned to make itself smaller for the comfort of a world not yet ready for your full power, but the true you, the chosen you, the one who remembers, in moments of absolute stillness, exactly why they came. It is time. It has been time. Go be what you are.